Is it fair to say one word from the critic can change the career?
He went bang bang in one of the innings and Sunil Gavaskar says, I don't think this guy will make another 50 in his career. And
But you thought it was a washout?
I thought ये तो पिटाई हो जाएगा. In Bombay language they say tashan. They had this thing between each other. From 78, 79.
But imagine telling Rohit Sharma you've come late for the Australian tour, so you'll have to stay with a friend. Oof. Was this one of the greatest moments in your life?
Arguably the greatest moment,
Wow.
It's in the air. It's a six.
Yes, it's called Century of Stories Cricket, brought to you by IDFcFirstbank. We have Ayaz here, Ayaz Memon himself, legendary writer, earns more money than most cricketers, from what I gather. One word from Ayaz changes
Monopoly
your
money,
career.
not
Sorry?
real money.
Monopoly money. But is it fair to say one word from the critic can change the career? At least back in the 80s and 90s,
Well,
you guys could...
Not any longer.
Yeah. But now there's just too many critics.
There are too many critics,
And there's too many people talking at the same time, so it becomes like a shout. But let's go right into our topic, which is 83 and 87. We discussed 75, 79, 73 Ladies Women's World Cup, 75, 79 West Indies at their best. Now, as we get into 83, which is still England Prudential Cup, India has turned a corner. So I think we need to rewind a little bit to that West Indies series prior to that, where we actually win one of the one-day games. There's a three one-day series and we win one.
We win one at Berbice.
Yeah.
And that's just before the team goes to England for the World Cup. So in a sense, it's a great confidence booster. Kapildev, of course, was the big star.
70-odd.
Yes, in that match. And, but there was a lot of kind of debate. Kapildev had just taken over captaincy from Sunil Gavaskar. There had been a shift in the captaincy.
Right.
He led the team to West Indies. And then I think, he was also projected as captain for the World Cup, which is exactly what happened. So to win this match and then go to England on the back of a win, I think helped the Indian team. And then, of course, we know what happened in the first match of the tournament.
Yeah, we'll come to that. I just want to quickly say the 72, if I remember correctly, is of 30-odd balls, which is T20-like strike rate. That was Kapildev. So well ahead of his time. What would he have done today in a T20 match?
Yeah,
he was born in this generation.
Kapil was a natural genius, and I remember. That's the approach that he had in international cricket. Even when playing Test matches. Really? I remember the series against Pakistan in 1979-80 at home. We played at home, where he went bang bang in one of the innings, and Sunil Gavaskar the captain got
angry.
Got pissed off with him and says, I don't think this guy will make another 50 in his career. And he said it deliberately, as he was to say later, to provoke him. Because Sunil's argument was that Kapil is such a wonderful player as a cricketer, as an all-rounder. Apart from his fantastic bowling skills, he is the cleanest striker, amongst the cleanest strikers of the ball. So if he just puts his mind to it a little more, makes that little adjustment to say that I will not throw my wicket away, then he can score a lot more runs for India. And that's what we saw in Berbice and then subsequently.
But the point of why we keep going back to this Guyana-Berbice story is that India beats the mighty West Indies now in all their pomp and glory, at their zenith, as you yourself said in previous episodes, at home, which gives us a sense that, hey, 1 minute, we can play one-day cricket.
From India's point of view, it was a big inflection point, and then of course enhanced further by the first game in the World Cup itself.
So now we come to the World Cup, 83, England, and we play the West Indies again.
But actually, Cyrus, I don't know if I've told you this earlier, I didn't go to Old Trafford for the match.
Why not?
I chose to stay in London to watch England play New Zealand.
Well, you thought it was a washout?
I thought ये तो पिटाई हो जाएगा. How can we beat the West Indies? We've done it once.
So now 4 years, 5 years will pass.
We'll get a walloping. You can imagine the massive boost in self-belief that you get. You've beaten them in Berbice, you've beaten them in Old Trafford. Suddenly these guys who looked or seemed invincible, Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards, Gordon Greenidge, Garner, Marshall, Holding, these guys could be humbled.
But could you say the new personnel coming in were more 60 over friendly?
Yes. I think the selection worked to India's advantage. I think the selection was enlightened, far-sighted or foresighted. You had guys like Roger Binney.
We didn't mention Jimmy
Amarnath, Madan Lal, all of them. with a lot of experience of playing league cricket or county cricket in
Sandy
England.
and Chris Srikanth, huge hitters of the ball, for example.
Yes, Kapildev.
Kapildev, huge hitter of the ball.
huge hitter of the
Yashpal
ball.
Sharma, fairly fast batsman himself. Jimmy
Yes.
Amarnath, the guy who can adapt.
Yashpal
and
Sharma,
adapt.
brilliant fielder.
Yeah.
You know, and
And Sunny G is still there. Sunny G is still there. Didn't have a great tournament, but I mean, what a quality batsman.
Yeah, I think sometimes he had a poor tournament as a batsman. But his presence, I mean, if you've got Gavaskar in your team and the opponents look at the team sheet and say, the old buggers.
This guy is going to hold up the.
Yeah, he's playing
one
again.
end,
You know, so we need to get his wicket.
So we start off beautifully. You miss the game, but we win. And then we lose back-to-back, if I remember correctly, to Australia, West Indies again.
Yes.
Because there are two groups. Let's just set that up. There were two groups. You played your group twice. Everybody played each other twice in
Yes.
each group. Then you got semis and finals. That was the way it went.
Yes, so we lose to we get hammered by West Indies. Dilip Vengsarkar gets hit on the face.
Right.
By Malcolm
Marshall,
and
who was
his-
no friend of his. There was some.
Yeah, I mean,
there
they
was
had
some.
this,
In
thing
martial arts,
going.
he's spoken about how
As
Vengsarkar
again,
was his.
in Bombay language, they said Tashan.
Huh.
You know, they had this thing between each other. From 78, 79.
When he came with a weaker
When he-
West Indies
when
team,
he came
Kalishan
with
and his
the West
team,
Indies,
and apparently on debut he was sledged by Dilip Vengsarkar.
But I must tell you something about the ambience of Indian cricket and international cricket then in those days, is that when Vengsarkar got hit, he was asked to go and stay with a friend or some family
What
or
are you saying?
whoever he knew, because, that's
What?
it. You're not playing in the matches, so don't
No.
be a burden. Can you? I mean, it's unthinkable today.
Wow.
I mean, today the
What if he
support,
didn't have any friend? He's
the
an
support
Indian.
staff is 25, 30 strong.
But I asked, what if there's nobody to go to?
So, P.R. Mansingh was the manager who looked after him to the extent, but, maybe you'll be taken better care of if you stay with a friend, because we are playing a tournament, we are playing, matches and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, it's a big difference from the 1983
Imagine
team,
telling
but-
Rohit Sharma you've come late for the Australian tour, so you'll have to stay with a friend. Oof. Yeah. So we lose 2 games. Then were you there?
Trevor Chappell making a century against us.
Right.
We lost that
And
match.
both
against
the matches were
Australia.
hammered.
Yeah, both the matches we lost very badly.
Yeah. And then we go to Tunbridge Wells.
Tunbridge Wells.
Were you there?
Of course I was there.
Was this one of the greatest moments in your life?
Arguably the greatest moment,
That's
because-
something.
Yeah,
You've seen
because
so much cricket. For you to actually say that, that's huge.
there are many reasons. One is the fact of my being there at the World Cup itself was, for me, very momentous. At that point in time, I was on the verge of taking a call whether to pursue law as a profession or remain in journalism. And I said, let me cover one World Cup, फिर आके देखेंगे. And this match was very very decisive for the fortunes of the World Cup, and obviously Indian cricket as it happened subsequently.
Also to set it up, pretty solid Zimbabwean side with bowlers
Very
who
good
could,
Zimbabwe
in those
side.
English conditions, move the ball.
Zimbabwe had beaten Australia
Correct.
in the first match of the tournament.
Yeah.
They were very good, a very hardy team, some high quality players, Kevin
Curran,
Peter Rawson, Dave Houghton, and so on. So, I mean, a brilliant fielding team. And as underdogs, no pressure. The pressure was always on the other teams. And India meeting them after losing 2 matches on the verge of being,
Knocked out.
Yeah, get your return ticket
So
stamped
just set the innings up for us. When does Kapil come in?
9 for 4.
9 for 4, Kapil comes in.
9
What
for
were your thoughts?
I thought this is gone. I mean, I must mention here that I was living in London and, with meager resources.
Vengsarkar didn't have a room,
I
but
didn't-
Ayaz Memon had a
I
mansion
didn't
in London.
I didn't have too much money, so I took an off-peak hour ticket to
Oh,
go
nice.
to Tunbridge Wells from London, and reached a little late and ran to the ground, Tunbridge Wells. And as I entered the ground, there was, there was a kind of a
Silence?
sullen mood, And when you went into the ground in Tunbridge Wells, you passed the dressing room first. There was a porch outside. It was a very quaint ground,
Yeah.
small kind of a pavilion. And I see G.R. Vishwanath standing there. He had come to as one of, he was watching the matches. He was not playing the tournament. But I saw him there, and since I knew him, I sidled up to him, and I, it's trying to make kind of easy conversation.
Yeah.
And then he's telling me, no, nothing to worry about, nothing to worry about. I said, nothing to worry about? So that's when when I looked at the scorecard, I realized that something is seriously amiss. And I waited with Vishy for a little while, saw Kapil get into his groove, so to speak.
Right.
Some little minor partnership with the Binny.
Binny and Kirmani then, right?
Then Kirmani, of course, became the big partnership.
Yeah.
And once they kind of took a little spent a little time in the middle. I went up. The press box was like a shamiana at square leg or
Was there a crowd?
5,000-6,000 strong. It was packed
Mostly
house.
our types, our people?
Mostly old age pensioners, it seemed, from
My God,
Tunbridge
so
Wells.
neutrals watching.
Yeah, very few Indians. There was no BBC television coverage.
Unbelievable.
There was no radio broadcast. So
unbelievable. Really,
you
I
have to
can't
rely
believe
on
that.
my eyewitness account. But I was there, and what I saw was, in my opinion, still the greatest one-day innings ever.
I'm just trying to think, as he comes back, 175 not out, what was the reaction of those 5,000 pensioners?
I mean, people went berserk because he started peppering the ground with sixes and fours, and and Kapildev was amongst the hardest hitters of the ball. He was as powerful a striker of the ball as a Gordon Greenidge or a Viv Richards.
Really?
And when he hit the ball, it went like a bullet, like a tracer bullet.
To quote the great Ravi Shankar Shastri.
Yes, the immortal words of Ravi Shastri. And then he could also tonk the ball over the field, hit sixes. So it was the most magnificent display of, or turnaround innings,
But take us to the England match very quickly, the semi-final.
I thought Sunil Gavaskar in this match looked really good. I think he made 25 odd, but Gavaskar is in good nick when he gets his straight drive going. Yeah. So he played a couple of crackling straight drives of Paul Allett. And, he kind of set the tone for the run chase. And then Sandeep Patil had this, every time he saw Bob Willis.
Yeah. 6 fours in an over.
Yeah.
We did good white ball now. Yeah.
Waving a red handkerchief in front of a raging bull. So
in terms of hitting the ball, one of the hardest hitting batsmen you've seen.
And he was a true blue entertainer in many ways. I mean, the World Cup apart, Sandeep Patil came to fame because of the way, he was hitting sixes into the Arabian Sea at the Gymkhana grounds.
Is it true? I heard these legends, for those who grew up in Mumbai, that he would cross, the ball would cross from the Gymkhanas.
Many of them have gone into
the actual sea.
Yes, because the Gymkhanas, the boundary line would be about 50, 55 yards, 60 yards.
Yeah.
And then add another 20 yards of the roads, the Marine Drive road. Yeah. And the ball would be in the sea.
I just hope he didn't take Mrs. Mehra down with him, with one of those balls, because there are all these guys walking on the promenade.
Sandeep's father was a palm tree.
I heard Madhu Patil. Was he bigger? Is that just legend that he was?
No. I mean, it's a fact. He was a big hitter. Yeah. Shivaji Park, he's a legendary figure.
Yeah.
But of course, Sandeep played international cricket. But in that match, he got to a situation where he could unleash his, that fusillade of strokes against Bob Willis. But that's because of the way Yashpal Sharma played and Jimmy Amarnath played. They just stabilized the innings. England were not giving up without a scrap. So they made it tight for India till...
We chased it down with 3 or 4 down, right? Or 4 wickets down.
Yeah, we chased it with a lot to spare.
Yeah.
And when the winning runs were hit, they didn't even wait for the ball to cross the boundary. Just ran into the...
Well, Desi log, sab jagah pe Desi log hai, and we have a different way of celebrating. Now we come to the final, ladies and gentlemen, which is very interesting. Tell me honestly, Ayaz, you're there, you're a patriot, you love the game, you love cricket, but you really didn't think we'd win 3 in a 12-month calendar. We'd win 3 times against the mighty West Indies.
Before the final, I must mention here that the system of accreditation in England was different from everywhere else. You didn't get one pass as a journalist to go to all the grounds. One pass to go to all the grounds except Lords. Because Lords belonged to Marylebone Cricket Club, which had its own kind of system. So when we landed for the World Cup and I applied for accreditation, they said, you will get no accreditation for any matches at the MCC unless your team is playing here.
Is it?
Yes, India is playing here. Which was a rebuff. So
that's a bit mean, actually.
There was the Test and County Cricket Board, as it was known,
TCCB,
and then there was MCC. So there was no privileged entrance to Lords, entry to Lords. But when India reached the final, we said we must now go and ask for accreditation.
And also England is not in the final.
Yes, and England is not in the final. So the stewards, snooty, stiff upper lip stewards.
Are they really as bad as Gavaskar and gang have described them?
Yeah. I don't know what the situation is now. I'm sure they've improved because, the Indians are bringing so
half
much.
The members are Indians. So,
and bringing the money into the coffers of cricket in England. But at that point in time, we went there and at the gates, we stopped and said, what do you want to do here? So we said, we have to go and get accreditation from the office. So one steward is telling the other, now we've got Gandhi coming to Lords.
Wow.
Because
that wouldn't be allowed in 2024.
Yeah.
But at which point do you feel, we remember Srikanth's brilliant innings and cameos from Jimmy, Sandeep. At which point does Ayaz Memon think that, okay, what the hell? And please don't tell me Viv Richards' catch.
No, that's one. one factor, because that, you get the best
But at,
batsman.
at 183, at the changeover, you don't think so?
No, certainly not. At that time, you think that this is going to be easy meat for the West Indies, But then they lose both the openers. Greenwich, certainly.
Yeah.
Then Haynes, then Viv Richards.
Yeah.
And you start thinking, is there some surprise round?
What about that in-swinger?
Yes.
Good old our Mumbai boy,
Yes,
Balwinder
but
Singh Sandhu.
terrific delivery and instant kind of reaction.
Legend
from the
has it he's been
spectators.
told to bowl outswingers by Kapil and no in-swinger, and he bowls the in-swinger. Is this a true possibility?
Maybe he himself didn't know what he was bowling at that point in time. But, in the excitement of the match. But Greenwich getting out, and then Haynes, and then Viv Richards is a major blow.
Against
I
the run
think-
of play. Because
against
he
the
said
run of
33
play.
or 28 balls, 7
He was
fours.
in a destructive mood.
Was he
And perhaps-
was he overconfident?
I think he was a little cocky. But I think what really helped also subsequently was Clive Lloyd pulling a muscle and
Yeah.
unable to
Run.
and bat freely.
And perhaps
therefore he
stretch.
kind of hold out he gave a very simple catch.
So
to
which is the
cover.
point when you, as a cricket lover, think that
I
okay, West
thought
Indies
all
are
the
good?
drama began. I thought the drama would begin. Greenwich is out, Haynes is out, Richards is out, and Lloyd is out. So that kind of still a very good team. The Fouth, Buckus, and Dujon. Marshall can bat.
Definitely.
Ro-
and not
Roberts
that
can
many
bat.
runs. You're looking at a 50-70 partnership to take them home.
The target isn't
Yeah.
very big.
Yeah.
And what is your, apart from Kapildev, what are your bowling resources?
And we must tell them that they've twice escaped, with a last wicket partnership in World Cups
Correct.
before that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the West Indies, and they were the champions. There is a certain mindset and mentality that champions kind of live in.
Will perform when
They
the
perform.
chips are down. Yeah.
When the chips are down, they find, or the big stage, they come good.
Hmm.
So this didn't seem like India had won the match till, of course, the last wicket fell. That's
Michael
the best
Holding.
way I can say it. I can see the change in momentum, things happening, fortunes.
Give me your
going-
Sushmita Sen moment then. As Michael Holding is declared LBW, what did you do? What went through your head?
I'll tell you what went through my head.
Hmm.
One of the things that had happened in the World Cup was, everybody was saying India can't win. When the World Cup started, the story about David Frith writing about, I'll eat my words.
tell us the story quickly. Yeah.
I'll eat my words if India wins.
Why are you here, apparently? He said, why you guys say you don't even like one-day cricket, etc.
Correct. And that he used to write for Wisden magazine.
Yeah.
And he was the editor. Then there was Richie Benaud, who was also...
Who we all love and respect.
who was
but-
also a
yeah.
naysayer in that sense. And I remember running up the stairs to the old Lord's, press box, and Richie Benaud was obviously doing television commentary coming down, and he says, little jokingly perhaps, saying, I'll still give you 66 for 1. 66 to 1.
Yeah.
At the odds.
Which were at the beginning.
Original odds.
Yeah.
And I seriously thought maybe it's worth 10 quid. I said, 10 pound jayega. Forget it. So after the match ended, I kind of sought out Richie Benaud. The broadcast box wasn't far from where we were sitting. And he says, sometimes you have to take a risk. Which I thought was quite telling.
Yeah, 66 to 1 won the World
Wow.
Cup.
You know what is not very little? More interest per annum on your IDFC First Bank savings account. Not just that, there are also literally zero charges on all savings account services. That's not little at all. I mean, I'm a bit of a maths wizard. Okay, yaar, all right, stop it. Don't want to talk about that.
Now, the story that we haven't told so far is that England has monopolized the World Cup.
Yes.
And there were a couple of personal stories. I think NKP Salve, our head of our board.
Jagmohan Dalmia.
All these guys were a little, peeved with the treatments they were getting, etc.
Ayaz Bindra.
All that, yeah. So you tell us. So how did we get the 87 World Cup to India?
This is a very dramatic story, Cyrus. So, India in the finals, and NKP Salve, the board president, is there. There's Jagmohan Dalmia and Ayaz Bindra, office bearers.
Our bigwigs, yeah.
Yeah, our bigwigs. And they asked for some passes. Passes for and they were rebuffed. So, this pissed off NKP Salve, who was also minister in the Indira Gandhi government.
Serving
then.
minister, yeah.
Serving minister. So, this...
Is it true he went to the Prime Minister?
I mean,
We
post
don't
facto, after the match is over, what do you do? But he went to the Prime Minister later to lay out the plan for bringing the tournament to India. But getting the tournament to India involved a lot of hardships, apart from everything else, infrastructure being one. The corpus for the tournament itself, can you match what England was offering, or Prudential was offering in England? And then, there were many hardships. For instance, playing cricket in India was given the time.
The light is less, so we can't do 60 overs.
You can't do 60 overs and so on. So, in those days, the relations between the Pakistan Cricket Board and the Indian Cricket Board were quite good. Actually, the cricket boards have been friends for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There have been swings up and down. So, they contacted Air Marshal Noor Khan, who was then the PCB president, Pakistan Cricket Board president, or what was BCCP.
Right.
There. And they conspired that we must get the World Cup out of England. Ye bahut ho chuka hai, And for that, they had to get the votes of the associate members to get into a situation where
it's a bit like the Qatar World Cup
because
for football.
England had the support of Australia, New Zealand, the West Indies actually supported this bloc. So to form a bloc,
we got the Asian bloc, and then the extra
and the
countries,
associate members and stuff. So getting the matches into India and Pakistan created its own hardship because then the governments had to get involved. Agree
and that's always
agree to host,
up and down relationship.
Host the tournament together jointly.
Yeah.
And then of course the infrastructure and light was an issue. So the overs were reduced to 50 overs for the first time. And the matches were played over 50 overs, the ODI matches, just to make sure that you don't have a situation where most of the matches are abandoned or called off because of poor light.
Yeah.
There are not many grounds in India and Pakistan had floodlights. They were not floodlit grounds. So all of this was, all done in maybe 2 or 3 years. So
record time.
A lot of government parlays, and the clincher obviously was they just raised the ante. Financial, consideration.
Because India has the money.
India, at that point in time, India wasn't the behemoth it is today, Indian cricket. But, yes, and the 83 World Cup win had, kind of triggered off a frenzy. There were sponsors coming in. The 87 World Cup was, sponsored by Reliance.
It was called the Reliance World Cup, I remember. The only Vimal ad is in my head even now. I think Viv Richards, Alan Border, Kapildev, all these guys endorsing.
So the money on offer was what England couldn't match or didn't want to match, thinking that, this experiment...
Let them make a fool of themselves, we'll get it back.
This experiment is doomed to failure, but it wasn't. And 87, in my opinion, the World Cup turned out to be one of the most entertaining tournaments we've seen.
And yes, the first fact, here it comes. To come on board as the title sponsor for the 1987 World Cup, industrialist Dhirubhai Ambani had one condition. He wanted to be seated next to PM Rajiv Gandhi during an exhibition match between India and Pakistan held just before the World Cup 1987.
But very quickly, we need to get to this one story of yours which you had told me offline. The semi-finals, India plays England, Pakistan play Australia.
I was covering the Pakistan leg.
Yeah.
And Pakistan
this is Lahore.
In Lahore.
Yeah.
Pakistan reaches the semi-final and they look the best team in the tournament. Imran Khan, Wasim Akram, all kinds of...
What a team.
Javed Miadal, Abdul Qadir... Star-studded team and at top of the form, and they run into an Australian team led by Alan Border, young team, almost an experimental team in many ways.
And an Australia which had gone through a bad period with red ball as well.
They'd gone through a bad period. They had some recovery in the sense of a tight test match
with
against
us
India
in Chennai.
And Pakistan come a cropper. They lose that match at Lahore, and I can tell you, Cyrus, I haven't seen, when you say pin drop silence speaks the loudest. That was the situation.
Famous Gaddafi Stadium.
Before, it just broke into wailing and howling and crying, the spectators. That was the expectation and it wasn't met. And I was there covering the tournament as a writer, but also ghosting a column from Imran Khan, who was the captain then.
Yeah. Oh, you were writing his column?
Yes, at that point in time. So, I went to the dressing room and they wouldn't allow me in. They said, nahi, meeting ho raha hai. Kisi ko allowed nahi hai. So I waited for a while, sent word in through the Darwan, whoever was there, said, Khan Sahab ko bolo ki wo karna hai column.
And this was a big column that you have to write.
So he sent him back and said, let him come in. And I went in. And there was, the bunch of Pakistanis, all of them, the entire team, sitting with, not even daring to look Imran in the eye, all looking downcast. And Imran spoke to me and then he stood up and he said,
his baritone.
Plane खड़ी है आज जिसको जाना है कलकत्ता ताली बजाने, because the Pakistan team everybody thought Pakistan would win.
Yeah, so then
And
there's chartered
there
plane.
was a chartered plane to bring them to Bombay,
Huh.
where the semi-final was going to be played the next day.
And
then
then-
in the Indian and Pakistani teams, because India was expected to beat England.
We'll go to Cal.
We'll go to Cal for the final, and there was a huge hullabaloo and
By the way,
brouhaha.
both the teams didn't make it. So
But I got a place in the chartered flight because none of the Pakistani players came.
Wow.
So I saw the semi-final which Pakistan lost, and went to the Wankhede the next day and saw India being swept out of the final.
May I just
by
say
the-
my memory, because I was in the, sitting there, right, that square leg area where my gatting takes the catch.
Correct.
Look at the irony here, because Kapildev takes that wonderful catch which turns the game in 83 when Viv is going berserk, and our last hope is Kapildev, and he plays the sweep,
Yes.
the big sweep of his, and gatting, and we all shouting, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it.
Yes.
But those guys' hands were like buckets, and that was it.
That was, and you might remember Gavaskar's last innings.
Yeah.
The last time we saw
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
He got bowled by Phil de Freitas.
Yeah.
And that was the end of an era.
Yeah.
But a final between England and Australia, not India and Pakistan, much anticipated. So terrific World Cup, great close matches, all except that the climax became an anti-climax for supporters of
This is the
India and
beauty of
Pakistan.
cricket now.
That's the
Come on,
beauty of
you win
cricket.
some, you lose some. We got the 83 World Cup.
Yes.
No one can take that away from us for our
And
generation.
then it also threw up a new champion in Australia, and
Yeah.
it marked a trend of how a change was taking place in the power matrix of international.
It's bringing cricket closer in a sense, because now there's no one dominating factor that's slowly going out. At least not in white ball.
Also, the stranglehold, in a sense,
Yeah.
that West Indies had on
Was
one-day
loosening.
cricket was loosening. I mean,
Slowly.
they lost to India in '83, and they didn't feature even in the semi-finals in '87.
And subsequently haven't
And
had a great run.
subsequently haven't had a great run.
Sadly, maybe that'll change. I'm a big West Indies supporter. But that's all we have time for here on Century of Stories Cricket, brought to you by IDFC First Bank. Ayaz batted number 3 for the Mahim 11 against Cyrus Brocha, who batted number 4 for the Mulba Hill 11.
Yes.
I was a Gundapa Vishwanath fan. You were a Vengsakar fan. So
Yes.
that's how we chose our numbers. But we'll see you soon.
You were a tail-ender, आपको धक्का दे दिया ऊपर.
ठीक है कपिल देव भी रवि शास्त्री कपिल देव सब tail enders थे
हाँ,
and then
ये
see
तो
where
है.
they've come with the
Yes,
bat after
yes,
that. Yeah. Steve Smith started as a leg spinner.
Yes, he did.
There you go. Learn this and more on our show. Ayaz is here to guide us. But what a lovely ride this has been, the World Cups up to 1987. We'll see you soon.
Before we bid adieu, a quick safety tip from IDFC First Bank and me for you. One of the oldest frauds in the fraud industry is identity theft. The fraudsters get a hold of vital instruments like your check or KYC documents, and they try to impersonate you and apply for loans or open another account under your name. To prevent this, keep a close eye on your banking activities and never share any personal information before verifying the person you're talking to. If you suspect any fraud, report it immediately on this number. All right? I'll say bye for now. Check this out.